Hello, everybody! You may have noticed that I'm not in my office today. That's because while I've been trying to tone down the news at the beginning of the Wednesday episodes, this time around, I felt that I had a bit too much to talk about. And I wanted to use the TV. Okay, first, it's been a bit of a week for me. I've been feeling just a little bit off, and I couldn't figure out why. Then on Monday, I and my dentist finally figured it out. I'm getting a tooth replaced, and I was prescribed antibiotics for it. Unfortunately, they hadn't cleared the infection before the prescription ran out. So now I'm on a stronger dose and doing another round of them, and hopefully this will clear the infection and stop the pain, and my tooth will start properly integrating into my jaw. I'm under firm instructions that if I still have pain or inflammation after I'm finished taking them, that I should text him immediately and I can come in to have him take another look. But we both think that this was the problem, so I'm just glad that it's getting dealt with. Now, in much more interesting news, I'm not technically going to be on Twitch tonight. You see, there is a movement to try and let Twitch know that they need to do better. Hashtag Twitch Do Better is standing in solidarity with marginalized creators that are having tough times dealing with botting and hate raids. So instead, I will not be starting my stream at 9 p.m. PST like I normally do, but instead I'll be starting at midnight PST, so 12 a.m. on Thursday morning. However, even if it's just a little bit later, you are going to want to make time for this one. I'll be having my first collab with two of my friends, a fellow streamer named Chimera, and a non-streaming friend, Grim. We'll be doing a few battles, probably not in the new Inazuma area, since unfortunately I have not made it there yet. For sadness. For sadness. However, I do have at least 20 wishes saved up, and I'm going to be trying to see if I can get enough for 30. So we'll be able to do some wishing as well. See if I can pick up the new character, Raiden Shogun. Oh, she could be my new waifu. She's so pretty. Oh, so pretty. Anyways, through the banner wishes, I will be putting my links for my Twitch page and Chimera's in the description below. And I hope that we'll see you all there. Okay, that'll be it for the update. So let's head back to my office. Okay, perfect. Okay, now last week in Hunter's Gambit, Richard found out that the best laid plans did not survive meeting with the enemy. The enemy being his desire for Kazunaha, of course. Still, they managed to keep their discussion professional. At least until it came to where Kazunaha would be spending her night. He regretfully sent her away, suggesting that she ask Deckard about the room. But that was not where she had to go first. So, on with the story. Okay, so let me just pull up the book here. There we go. Perfect! Perfect! Jack's house was small and practical compared to Kazunaha's family's house, though it was larger than even the healing house. His father had commissioned it for him when he came of age. Jack's brother, Raphael, would live with his father and in the family manor when their father passed on. Her family's manor was supposed to hold all family members, including grandparents, parents, and children. It was the Cianku way. It would probably never be that full again. Their father had never said what happened to their grandparents, but she knew that both had died before he had even come of age. She wondered if her father would have built her a home like this, if he'd lived. Kazunaha snorted. Most likely he would have kept her at home, expecting her to do the same as Jack's sister, to marry one day and live with her husband's family. She couldn't deny that part of her wanted that future. A manor house with a tall man that loved her, and a small child with unreasonably blonde hair atop their dirt-smudged face. She walked up and knocked on the door. A moment later it opened. Jack was wearing a set of soft pants and nothing else. He was thin and soft features, though his eyes, as always, had a hardened smile to them. Not that Jack was cruel, but he was shrewd, and fond of saying that he'd seen entirely too much during his childhood. Kazunaha understood how that could be. Bastards, even girl bastards, weren't usually brought up with the love and unlimited support of their parents like their true-born children were. To be thought of as half as good, you had to do something twice as well. For Jack, that had never been a difficulty. "Kazunaha, what are you doing here, especially this late?" He smiled as he noticed the dress. "Not quite the reason you're hoping it is," she said, smiling. "To my eternal disappointment," he joked. "Speaking very seriously, though, that dress is incredible on you. Would you like to join me for a drink at least?" "I'd love that. No company tonight?" She had heard that he was seeing one of the girls in town, though she didn't know which one. "Actually, I do have company. However, she'll understand that you're not here to take her place." She followed, and he poured them both a glass of whiskey over some cool stones. He handed her the glass, and they clinked to them before drinking them down. Jack smiled and poured her more. "Still a good drinker, I see." Of course. I haven't stopped just because I don't tend to, visit as often as I used to." After Deckard, she'd rebounded with Jack. The sex had been a balm to her heart before they'd both realized that it wasn't going to work. Still, she had a lot of good memories of that time, most of it in this room, talking late and drinking. "Anyway, sit. Is this business or pleasure you need?" he asked. She sat down on the couch, different from when she'd visited last time. This one was a cream and green color. "I'm looking for someone to help with a business endeavor of mine." An investor?" he asked. He had to be joking, since she'd never known him to be that out of touch with what was going on in town. "No, I'm certain you've heard of the job I've taken with the foreigner." He moved from the couch, where he'd been about to join her, and moved to the blue chair on the other side of the table instead. He sat down, sipped his drink once more, and then set it down. The one that murdered those people?" "Don't roll your eyes at me like that," he said in his own defense. "It's the only thing people know about him." "My sister has decided that I shouldn't be going. Normally that wouldn't bother me. This time she's been talking, and has convinced Talbert not to sell to us. Not God's damned single item worth more than a copper centime. So what can I do about—" He paused, working out what she was there for. "You want me to get what you need from him?" She nodded. Jake coughed into his hand. "This would be easier if you only needed black market items. I can take those directly from the stock I keep. For what you're asking for, if he figures out I'm buying them for you, he won't sell to me." "Well, tell him you're stocking up early or for another trip. He won't know since you buy so much already." Jack made a noise that said he conceded the point. "Tell me more about this expedition," he said, raising an eyebrow at her. "I've heard the gist of it around town. Hidden treasure that you'll be fighting monsters and pirates hand over fist for. Personally, I'd like to know why your friend didn't come directly to see me about it. I have a boat for charter." "Richard doesn't think we're looking for a ship lost at sea," she said. Then she shrugged. "I honestly think he simply chose me for convenience. I saved his life, and he wanted a local to help him search. I can't say I like you taking up that task. It's a bit too close to cutting in on my territory, you understand. The fact that he wanted a cut of the deal was left unstated, due to their friendship. She rolled her eyes, trying to play it off. I can promise you that searching for lost treasure around Hedan isn't going to become a common thing. This is a one-time thing, not a new job for me. He frowned, accepting her excuse, as though it had simply been her escorting someone around that he'd been interested in. Probably because there was more than one way to skin a rabbit. What was it carrying? An important passenger, carrying traditional gifts for a newborn. Tea towels and blocks won't be worth much, Jack pointed out. Kazunaha shook her head. Sorry, traditional Sienku gifts for a newborn. Jack still looked blank. Money for the parents to spend on the child. Money for the child themselves. And family heirlooms. The most expensive items, of course, will be the dolls if they survived. Dolls? Sienku works of art, Kazunaha said, almost wishing that she'd brought hers. They aren't made for playing with. The heads, hands, and feet are made of fine plaster and painted. Wood is used for the body. The clothes that are made for these dolls are often worth more than any actual clothes that may be sent. Are they worth more depending on who created them? You said the person was important. She scrunched her forehead. Not really. Not to say that there aren't expert doll makers, but they aren't usually signifiers of family. They may have a crest on some of the clothing. At any rate, I don't think that even one of our families would still pay for their return. Not unless the families were exceptionally close. Why did they send gifts if they weren't? It's a birth, Kazunaha laughed. Everyone that you've met is supposed to come by and offer one. It's our way. What happens if you don't find it? She hadn't been expecting the question, but her mouth set in a hard line almost immediately. We will. And if you don't, then we find nothing. That isn't a good investment, Kazunaha. I can see why your sister is worried. Her lips thinned into a line, and Kazunaha nearly growled. Jack, please. I expect this sort of uselessness from Himiko, but not you. I am not going to make money. I'm going to prove that I can. And can you? He asked. She stuck out her chin. My majority day is tomorrow. Which your sister is clearly blocking, else you wouldn't be here, right? She didn't dignify that with an answer. He smiled. Fine, it's your sister and your trouble when she catches up with you. However, it will make my fees higher. I know your sister. If she suspects that I helped, she'll try to take me out along with anyone else who helped you defy her. She nodded. Do you know how much you'll need and what supplies can be picked up where and how long purchasing them should take me? Yes. They discussed the details of what she wanted and what he wanted in return. I should only need 1 day to collect all of this. I will want one other thing. First rights to any items you're selling, and 15% off what you could sell them for. She sucked in a breath. The request wasn't completely out of line, but it was still too high. Also, Richard had said that it would come out of her percentage. She could afford it, even if it was expensive. 15%, much too high. 5%, if you want exclusive first rights. 10%, he haggled. Their first rights to a treasure that you keep insisting is minimal, which means that you'll have a guaranteed buyer interested in at least seeing what you bring back. 7%. There's still first rights. 8.5%. You get to have your partner's agreement first. My time is worth something. She narrowed her eyes, but finally nodded. As long as Richard agrees, it's acceptable. Good. In that case, I have one other question. What if you die? What? The question took her by surprise. He amended it. I know you. You would never back out of a deal once you've made it. You simply don't agree to those that irk you too much. On the other hand, if you die out there, I will lose you. She flushed. It was more intimate than Jack ever really got. She tried to reassure him. The dangers are minimal, Jack. Even the birdos aren't very active right now, and the water is still too cold for any fishermen, even if they did happen to notice Richard and me traveling. There were creatures in the water that occasionally took out unwary fishermen boats, although most of them only came this far during the warmer months. A particularly cold winter would easily freeze the top layer of water. It wasn't a problem for boats that could crack through it, but it seemed to impede the monster's movement. Jack shook his head. It was only 4 years ago that your father died to their predations, Kazunaha. Kazunaha stiffened. Her father had died to the creatures in the street, and she had never left her daggers at home since then. He knew that. I'm better with my blades than you are. I can take care of myself. That is true. He put his hands up in a gesture of defeat and then looked her up and down. Will you be leaving that here with me? She blinked. He was pointing at her body. Leaving what with you? That robe is an artifact of your family, correct? Leave it with me. I have a lockbox you can use to keep it safe while you're gone. Kazunaha thought her heart had missed a beat. She grabbed the silk tightly, as if Jack would tear it off her. But this is an heirloom. And I assume you don't want it lost if you don't come home. I assume you want to avoid going home at all if you can help it. He did have a point. Her sister would never forgive her if something happened to it because she took it out of the city with her. She sighed. I agree. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. Why wait? Leave it tonight. I have some sturdier clothes here you can wear. You can return them whenever you get a chance. Perhaps tomorrow, so that you and your business partner can sign to the contract. She realized that she was clutching the silk too tightly. She sighed and forced her hand to open. Even if she took it with her, where would she leave it? The box was at home, and she didn't even have a place to stay. Deckard certainly wouldn't have a box to put it in. If she went to him... Did she even have a choice? Unless she wanted to stay with Jack. No. Deckard was a more suitable choice, if only because Himiko wouldn't come looking for her there. She just might if she found out that she was staying with Jack. You're really looking forward to meeting Richard. Why? She asked. Kazunaha, I still care about you. I want to look in the eyes of the man you've fallen for and confirm for myself that he's up to the task. Kazunaha grumbled. We're business partners. Nothing more. Truly. Then why the blush? Jack asked, a chill in his tone. Kazunaha put her hand to her cheeks and looked away from him, as if she could hide it by looking away. Think what you want, but we aren't sleeping together. He paused and then stood up and walked over to hug her. I'm sorry. I worry about you. She was too tired to deal with yet another person who felt that she needed to be protected. She wasn't made of glass. I know, sorry. We'll be by tomorrow morning. Let's get me out of this. Your girl had better not be in the bedroom naked and waiting for you, she said, annoyed. He grinned at her. Circe is in the kitchen. You remember my assistant, right? I can guarantee that she won't be in my bed waiting for me. Let me grab you some clothes. Okay, and just let me put the book down. There we go. Page marked for next time. Oh, well, this chapter is technically our introduction to Jack. Those of you who remember Chapter 1 will remember Kazunaha talking about him in that first episode. He's clearly not a great influence on her. He's the one who gets her the wine when no one else would dare. He definitely doesn't always work on the up and up. If I had to place him in a neat hole in this story, I'd probably put him as Kazunoha's mirror. Like Kazunoha, he was brought up in a family of wealth and privilege, but was never quite as accepted since, like Kazunoha, he was born out of wedlock. Also, like Kazunoha, he wants more than his family gave him, since they also put their first true-born child ahead of him. Unlike Kazunoha, though, his family didn't stunt him by dangling the carrot in front of him his whole life, only to take it away afterwards, which allowed him to funnel that ambition into other projects. That's why he owes his own business. One legal and, one less than legal. He's what she could become if she takes that route, even if Kazunoha herself wouldn't see the comparison. And that's going to be it for this week. Again, look for my stream starting 3 hours later than normal at midnight PST, and I should have my deconstruction of my WWC convention for you ready on Friday. Okay, I'll see you then.